Hello. So there's something I wanted to look at with you, or I know I'm thinking you might want to look at this with me. It's a thing for nerds, but not your typical kind of nerd. This is people who are nerds about airlines, airport, ticketing, reservations of flights, and basically it's looking at how we travel agents book your flights, the tools we use and how we use them and what we're able to do, what we're not able to do, and all of that. And I do realize probably not a lot of people will appreciate this. You need to be quite nerdy in the field or about the field for this. And so let's go to it right away. And let's start saying that it all started around the 1960s when airlines were having too many flights, too many things to look at, and sort of to sort of organize for them just to be on paper. So they started using these systems that they started calling, or eventually they were called CRSs, so Central Reservation Systems. And but what happened is, and this was happening around, by the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s, some airlines were putting their systems in travel agencies. Then obviously the problem that arose was that you would have the system of one airline but not the others, and you obviously could not have, you know, 20 computers in the travel agency, or well, at the time it was probably difficult to run 20 programs that you could sort of run at the same time on one computer. So what happened is organizations were born where they would be kind of filters, right? So they would take the data of the airline and distribute it to those who needed it, mainly travel agencies. And so that's when the GDSs started were born. They were called GDS later on, but Global Distribution System. And what they would do is, they would connect it to all the airline systems, or the ones who sort of adhered to them, and would be able to go inside and pick information at any time, and there would be these sort of available spaces for travel agencies to go in, make a request, and get the information. And the reason why they're called global distribution systems is because they do not distribute just airline content. Today, they also distribute car content, hotel information and reservations, train, some ferries, and some other services. And now, one interesting thing, is it interesting? I don't know, that's for you to say, is that they're not all the same all over the place. What do I mean? So the airline world is divided into three sectors, or three areas. You have Area 1, which is from North America to South America, Area 2, which is from Northern Europe to Southern Africa, and Area 3, which is Asia, basically, Asia Pacific. And in the Europe Africa region, we have four GDSs, which are Amadeus, Sabre, Galileo, and oh god, what's the fourth one? I'll get there. I'll think about it and I'll get there. We have these four, but you'll go to Asia and they won't have the same four. You'll go to Americas and they won't have the same four. For instance, Galileo in Europe, I think it's Abacus in Asia, and it's got another name in the States, for instance. And there will be some systems in Asia which are not available in Europe, but they're not very many, right? And Apollo. So Galileo is Apollo in the States. And yeah, how, and obviously, like as with everything, there's a degree of reality as to which one is best and which one is worse, and then there's also a degree of personal preference. This happens with airlines, right? As well, you'll meet people who swear by Lufthansa, best airline in the world. They never go wrong. And I'll talk to someone else who'll tell me like everything has always gone wrong when I've flown Lufthansa. For me, like Air France is the best, and so on. And with the GDSs, it's a bit like that as well. And so, for instance, I have never heard anyone say anything negative about Amadeus. So one could say that that is a pretty good system. Uh, Contrasting opinions on Sabre and Galileo. And I'm still not remembering the fourth one. It's because that is the one that I have never heard anyone talk. So give me a good impression about it, or a good comment about it, or good judgment. And so probably that's why I have it out on my mind right now. But that's how it is. And I personally use Galileo. I've also used Sabre. Um, I'm a bit skeptical about Amadeus. They use the comma in the commands, which doesn't make sense to me. But that's just me being a bit traditional and conservative. Anyway, I started on Galileo. No, not true. I started on Sabre, and then went on to Galileo. Then I went back to Sabre, and then I made sure I could go back to Galileo because I really prefer Galileo, reservation wise. Ticketing wise, Amadeus and Sabre are the best. Why? Don't know. Amadeus, because Amadeus, it's a new system, relatively new. It's 20 something years old. It's not very old, or maybe like 25 years old. It's not very old. And well, in the airline systems, that's not very old in airline systems terms, or GDS terms. So this means that it could it gathered all the experience of the negative things that other systems had, and it started by not using those, by avoiding all those problems. And that's what's good about it, definitely. um, Sabre, for instance, is a really good system for ticketing because it originally was American Airlines system. It stems from American Airlines system. And so how were these systems designed? They were designed to improve and cut the necessary times of operations of employees, right? So I had to improve their job, like what they were doing, and also they should take less time so they could be more productive. Like they were necessary for enhancing productivity. So, for instance, while with Galileo, which is it's probably due or because of its architecture or whatever, like IT architecture, it's difficult to change it, and that's probably the only explanation that comes to mind as why they haven't changed it. You need like 3 or 4 steps to issue a ticket, or to reissue a ticket, to change it and reissue it. While with Sabre, it's one line of command where you put different things, like you put different information, separated mm, uh, by certain text, but then it's like one line of command, enter, and it does everything. One line like what I mean is like when I say it does everything is that once you have changed the flight you want, say you're at the airport, right? So there's this employee behind the counter. And this was possible already 20 years ago. You would arrive at the counter and say, I need to change my flight from New York to London. Like, I don't want to leave in 2 hours. I need some more time. I want to leave in 6 hours. So they would change the flight. Once that flight was changed, with one line of command, they would confirm the change, confirm the payment method, charge your card, process the change, and issue the new ticket. which is like a lot of stuff to do. And so these systems were pretty advanced. But anyway, I use Galileo for reservations. I find it better, and we can get into it and see how it works. So let's go here. I just need to sign on. Okay, so when you sign on, it tells you sign on complete. We have A, B, C, D areas, and I will show you what the areas are. It's the 3rd of January. This is my, let's call it, how can we call this? This is my identification, my GDS identification. And sometimes some ads will appear here, sometimes no. I don't know if it's really effective. I don't know who reads them. I never read them, but I guess if they keep on going, people read them. So let's start from the basics. And so I want to look up an airline availability, a flight availability. Not so much not flight availability, more like route availability. So what flights are available on certain route, certain date. So for instance, I want to go from London to New York on the 15th of January. Okay, so I'll go A, 15 Jan, LUN, NYC. Very simple. It's almost for dummies. And you'll see how, as we go on, there are certain characters or certain letters which carry a meaning with them, which is verbalized, and which makes it simple to use. So for instance, A is availability. I want to see the availability. That's why we use A. On the 15th of January, and months are always expressed, month are always expressed in with the 3 letters. And then from London to New York City. Now here we have LUN, which is LON, is, so airport codes are always in 3 letters in IATA, when we're talking IATA travel, not ICAO travel, which is another thing. So IATA travel is always 3 letters, and where there's more than one airport in the city, you'll have the main airport code. This means that when you take, for instance, London has 5 airports, right? We have Luton, Gatwick, Stansted, Heathrow, and City Airport. I'm not counting Southend. And each of these airports has its own code, so LHR for London Heathrow, but you also sometimes need to collect them under one. So LON basically will go and look at the availability from all of these airports. Same thing for New York City. New York City has 3 airports, debatably 4. So let's say the General Newark, LaGuardia, JFK. If you use NYC, that will collect information from all 3 airports. So putting my input, LON NYC, that will look at all the flights from all London airports to all New York airports on the 15th of January. What is the availability of flights, right? And then I just press enter, and I start getting a list. Now, this list can be longer than just 8. Okay. It first gives me the first batch of 8, and it also, and the way the information is returned to me. So what has happened here? What's happened here is that I have asked the system to give me this information. This system has gone into all the airline systems, gathering the information, and is pushing it back to me. And it's telling me, and what order does it give me the information is? First of all, direct flights. First, it gives me direct flights options. Only after those, it will give me connecting options. And the second filter is by departure time. Okay, so I know for sure, with the information I have, with the request I have entered, I know for sure that the first flight out of London on the 15th of January is a flight which is flying from Heathrow, which is going to Newark, EWI is Newark, departs at 10 a.m., arrives there at 13:05 local time. Okay. I don't know about GDSs in the US. Here in Europe, definitely they use the 24-hour clock. So this would be 1 p.m., 5 minutes past 1 p.m. It's a United flight. Flight is United UA because we have airports are all 3 letters, airlines are all 2 letters, right? 2-letter codes. So UA is United, flight number 15. And here we have all the available classes of travel. So these are not all of them. I will show you something really nerdy later. So these are the available classes of travel. And then here there's a hash of interruption where it then tells me the aircraft type, 77W. Well, aircraft model. And then the C, I can't remember what C and asterisks are. And the E, this is quite funny. The E means that the ticket on this flight can be issued electronically. Now this is here since, been here for 20 years, since we started having electronic tickets, and or a bit under, slightly under 20 years, and it hasn't changed because before, like when electronic tickets started appearing, if if it had an E, it meant this flight is eligible for electronic ticketing, because some weren't. And it's just remained there. I think they could take it off because from using the GDS you could not issue a ticket not electronically. I think only airlines now in some very rare cases will issue paper tickets, but it's like extremely rare, if it still happens. Anyway, so here we have loads of information. So as you see, first, and on the first line it tells me neutral display. So here it's saying, neutral. You haven't asked us to give you any kind of filter, so here is all the information we're getting. 2 things. Let's see if I want to look at other flights. What's, tell me flights at 10, 10, 10, then 10:30, there's a BA flight, and then I'll tell you about that. 10:50, there's a Virgin flight, VS. And do flights stop at 10:50? No. I have to go availability, and asterisk. The asterisk in GDS language is called display. Like if I'm dictating an input to you, like a line to input, I will say like a display, which is what I've done here. So if you translate, if you verbalize these symbols, a display, it's availability display, right? So that's how simple it is. I'm feeling really nerdy because I'm smiling about this, but that's how it is. And so availability display, enter, and here it will give you the subsequent flight. So the next flight is at 12:35, an American Airlines flight, which is this, and then you'll get to the last flight. Last flight you see here, it gets really nerdy, and it gets a bit too detailed, and I'll do it later. But last flight you'll see is this 18:35 KLM, and then you see it starts giving you, and you can see it here with these two. These are connecting flight because it will give you London to Amsterdam and then Amsterdam to JFK. Okay. Anyway, I want to go back, and so I'll do, if I remember correctly, no, and sorry, if I start going again, availability display, it goes on. So you see, it keeps going. Now it gives me only connecting flights, right? So if I do available, I have to retype the command if I want to go back to the beginning, and I do so. Now here's something funny happens. Before we had on the first line United Airlines 15. Now this is on the second line, and we have on the first line a Lufthansa flight. Now you can immediately spot that this is not a Lufthansa flight because it has an AT symbol before the flight. This symbol means it's a code share flight. Code share means you'll have, if you're following, if you're still here listening to what I'm saying, it means you know what code share is. So, but just in case, code share is like, the flight is operated by United. We can see this because it's the same departure airport, same arrival airport, same time of departure, same time of arrival, but UA does not have the at symbol. So the flight is United, but Lufthansa will set it with its own flight number, and other airlines could do that. Oftentimes flights will be shared by 3, 4, 5, 6, and even more airlines, right? So in this case, you can see it sold by Lufthansa. You can probably see it sold by other airlines if you request in a certain way. And so this is like, you can see it here on line number 4, right? Line number 4, you can see first, line number 3, there's a London Heathrow to JFK at 10 a.m., arrives 13:30, and it's a Delta flight number 2. And just under that, same airport of departure, same arrival, same times, and then there's VS, which is Virgin, and there's the at symbol before. So this is a Delta flight. Delta is operating the flight. It's Delta material, Delta crew, Delta organized the whole thing, but Virgin has an agreement with Delta and sells it also with a Virgin number. So let's look at, so I'm more of a Sky Team man, more than Star Alliance. It's just me, sorry, and so let's look at flight number 3, which is Delta, okay? And we can see a lot of information here. For instance, so line number 3, airport of departure is LHR. Now, if I don't know an airport, if I don't know what LHR is, which is not my case, how do I look up an airport? I would go city decode. See how simple it is. Like the letters they use for the commands are, it's like they're almost made to be remembered, right? So city decode, and I will say LHR, enter, and it will tell me it's London Heathrow, United Kingdom. Same thing, I don't know what JFK is. City decode JFK, John Kennedy in New York. Reverse is, if I don't know what an airport code is. For instance, I want to fly to Atlanta. I can't remember the airport code. Okay, so what do I do is city encode, not decode. I'm not decoding a code, but I want you to give me the code. So encode Atlanta, enter, and it will give me a series of results where it says ATL Atlanta in Georgia, and then these are other small, probably more regional airports, or sometimes it'll give you also the codes of train stations, because you can buy trains on the GDS. You'll see that certain train stations have an airport like a 3-letter code as well. To give you a better example, I could say, this is a fun one. Maybe let's see if it works. City encode Miami. Yeah, look, Miami. What does it do? You ask for Miami, and it tells you that. What do you have? Miami is a particular thing. It's a particular airport because it's one of those airports that has a few airports around it which can be considered Miami. And so what it would need is a different airport, a different code for each airport, and then the general code, like in London, right? LON, or Paris is PAR. PAR is Paris all airports, and then if you use CDG as Charles de Gaulle, if you use ORY as Orly. Miami's a bit different because Miami has MIA, which is the general code, but it's also the code for the main airport in Miami, in Miami, the city. But MIA is also used as a general code to bring in Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach. So that's tricky. So there is a way around that, and I will show you something later. So here it's telling me, if I say Miami, it's giving me FLL, but I know that that's Fort Lauderdale. It's giving me FXE, I don't know what that is, but then it's giving me, you see MIA-M, this is main airport. MIA is the main, and that's true. If I want to fly to Miami, properly Miami, that's MIA. PBI, that's Palm Beach, and stuff like that. Let's go back to where I was before. And so that's how you manage to get all this information if you don't have it. For instance, DL. I don't know what airline. What airline is DL? Who would not know what DL is? Anyway, definitely not us in this video. DL is .AD, airline decode. Very simple. DL, Delta Airlines. Now, if I can't remember, oh geez, I want to fly United, but I can't remember what their code is, I would go like .airline encode United, and it'll tell me, hey, United Airlines is UA. UAL, that's the 3-letter code which ICAO use. We can go, if you want, into IATA and ICAO at another time, at a later time. And so going back to this line number 4, and wait, I'm just running out of battery, so I need to go and get my cable. I'll be back. Don't run away, this is so interesting. So, I'm back. So, what else we have here? Okay, so DL2, and then you have all these classes here. These are travel classes and sail classes, and I will get into those. And then we have a 764. 764 is the aircraft type, basically. So if I don't know what 764 is, how do we find that information? E as equipment decode 764. It's a Boeing 767-400. And I don't know how does it work here? I've done it. I can't know if I've ever done this. If I have, it hasn't been a long time. If I do equipment encode, and I do wait, .ee, what would get that result? Illegal entry. Equipment encode Airbus. Oh, yeah, it works. So it's fun also sometimes to try things and you'll see they work. And anyway, going back to our information, and here comes probably the most interesting part for you, which is all these classes here. So a flight is sold by class, right? Or a seat is sold first of all by class. So you have economy, you have very probably business, sometimes you have first, and sometimes you have premium economy. Now what happens is airlines need to sell not all seats at the same price. Why do they not sell all seats at the same price? Because they might give you different flexibility, right? So they'll say, hey, I'll give you a discount if I'm sure that you're returning on that day and that you're not going to change your ticket. That helps me plan ahead, and that's why I'll give you a discount. Or so you want more flexibility, you want to be able to change a ticket, so I'll give you a higher price for that, but then give you the possibility of changing it. So higher price does not mean just higher service. The service could be the same, And also, and the other need they have is to basically have the sales following demand, right? The more demand, the higher the price. The less demand, the lower the price. How do they do this? Well, it's basically giving, and yeah, how do they do this? Because the problem is here, like they can't be, there can't be someone, a human behind each flight at the at a certain, like, determining what the price is. So what they do is they define a scale of prices. I'll give you an example here. Let's expand this Delta flight number 2. Okay, so if I do availability and 4, line 4. Okay. Now here you see, this is a flight, and these are here that I'm selecting. These are all the classes of travel. Okay. So what they'll do is economy starts from Y downwards, or let's say you always start the lowest and the cheapest starts from the right bottom here. So E would be the cheapest, and then V, and then X, all the way up to J. Okay, so you have the sector or class, let's call it compartment class. Okay, so the economy compartment is always defined by Y. The business compartment is always defined by C. Some people will tell you J. That is wrong. It's C. And then, because some airlines have started taking away first class and only having business, and having J as the most expensive, like the premium business, they have started referring to business as J. But that is wrong. In general terms, historically it's always been C. C like Charlie. And first class is F. And since recently, with the premium economy, that is identified with W. Okay? Mainly. No, that is identified with W. So what happens is I can see that this flight has, due to my experience, I can see this flight, A, does not have first class because it gets up to J. J here is this is the most expensive. So it definitely does not have first class. It definitely has economy because it has Y and then goes down. Now, I know that this is premium economy because all these letters like S, W, in this case, I know A, they tend to be premium economy. What is the number 9? 9 means this is the maximum number of passengers I am making available to you in one transaction. So I can book up to 9 passengers on here. I can give you a better example of this. Let's go and look at flight tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 4th of January from London to New York City. And let's see if this is yes, this is simpler. This is a useful one. Okay. So here we'll see that at a certain point, P has 6, A has 6, G has 5. This means that of all the seats available, they're only selling 5 seats at the price that G has. Okay. That's the reason for those numbers. But let's stay on economy now. Okay, so I want to go fly economy from London Heathrow JFK, and I see all classes of service are available. Y, B, M, H, Q, K, L, U, blah, 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 down to E. Fine. Each of these has a price tag. E has a price tag, V has a price tag, X has a price tag. And as the flight fills up, that 9 becomes maybe, once they've sold 30, it starts becoming, the 9 starts going to 7, 5, 3, 2, 0. And in some flights, you will see, for instance, let's see if I can do this. 4th of January, Amsterdam to London to Frankfurt. Okay, now let's see if I can do it here. Yes, for instance. So economy on this KLM starts here and goes all the way down to here. G has a C, it means closed, class closed, not saleable. X is closed, V is closed, R is closed. All of these, A, you can sell 9 seats or more in more transactions on A. Then L is closed, S is selling, H is closed, W is selling, and so on. So this means, to me, it means that the flight is pretty full because there are not many, it's not selling in very many classes in economy. And it's full in business class as well, pretty full, in the sense that it doesn't have Z is closed, I is closed, D is closed. It has C and J, so these are the highest prices for business, and there's only 5 seats left, or it's only selling 5 seats. We can get into the one thing is what is the real availability of seats, and one is what they want to sell. Sometimes they'll want to sell more than what is really available, and that's the whole overbooking issue that we can have a conversation about in the future if you feel like it. And how the prices of these are determined? Well, the prices of these are determined by the airline, and you look at the prices up with a fare display. So I would go, here we have a flight Amsterdam to Frankfurt tomorrow, the 4th of January. Okay, Amsterdam to Frankfurt, leaving at 10, arriving 11:05 on flight KL 1765. So it's KLM. Now I do it with the fare display. How do you look up at fare display? Maybe FD. FD from Amsterdam to Frankfurt tomorrow with the 4th of January. / I want to see the fares just with KLM because I'm on a KLM flight. Enter, and I start looking at the fares here. See, this is returning me the fare last updated right now. Amsterdam to Frankfurt for 4th of January with KLM. This is maximum permitted mileage. This is a ticketing thing, and here you have public fares. Public fares, because private fares, maybe like some airlines have dedicated fares to certain companies or to certain markets. These are public fares available to everyone, and you will see. So this is the airline, KL. Fare, €41. R. When there's an R next to the price, this means it's a return fare. You cannot use it for a one-way flight. Okay, you have to use it for a return flight. This is the total for the return, out and in. Fare basis, all fares have a code. This is the code of the fare. Usually the codes are slightly intelligent, not too much, depending on who sort of came up with the code. But they have meanings into them. For instance, I can see that the last 2 letters of this fare code is LG. LG means light. So it's one of their light brand fares, means it probably doesn't have baggage, and you can probably not change it and not refund it. Okay. G is the class of service. G is the letter you have to use to reserve. So we saw at the letter, we looked at the letters before, right? Availability. We saw that G is not available, so we would not be able to use G. Advanced AP is advanced purchase. I have to buy this fare. Well, I can apply this price if I'm buying the ticket 10 days before. This is for tomorrow, so I could not sell this €41 fare. Minimum max. This is the minimum max, minimum stay, maximum stay. So when there's a V, it says, hey, there's a rule you need to look at for minimum stay. There's an exception. Maximum stay is 6 months. So if I want to return in 8 months, I cannot apply this fare. And these are other technical things that we can look at another time. They're more too much, so they go into detail. So for instance, let's go back at what I was looking at before. I saw that the first available here, if I'm going back, I want the cheapest possible flight was A. A is available, A, S, and W. Okay, so let's go on fare display. So X no, V no, GR no. No, I want to go down. In this case, I'll use move down, MD. Go figure. T, X, N, G, V, L, E, R, T, T, N, G, H. H, I think, no, was not available. And hey, we've gone from 41, we're down to 170 euros, and I still cannot sell that flight. I can still not purchase a seat on that flight for this. So move down. GQL, X, E, no, T, V, K, A. I remember I saw an A. 217 euros. Unless I want a one-way, in which case I have to go down and look at the fares which do not have an R, like this one, and just these, and L, G, K, H, still nothing, still nothing. Can't remember if U was available, but M was not available. B was available. 370 euros. Let's go back here. Yeah, W, we didn't have it. Another thing we can do to make it more simple is that I can ask for fare display Amsterdam to Frankfurt, 4th of January on KLM, and then write OW. I want only one-way fares. One way is OW. Go figure again. Enter, and you see there's no R on the rates here. So it's telling me, it's giving me all the fares which are just one way. And I can see that, yeah, nothing here, and I have to get to B. So what I have to do is I have to get a seat on B. How do I get a seat on B? Is N, which means need. I need one passenger, B class, on line 1. Enter. Why is it saying that? Weird. Because I have an old request. So it's asking me. So basically with the arrow I can go back on all the commands I've given. That's why you see me going like this, right? Anyway, so I'll refresh the request and I'll do this so that it gives us the first segment, all the classes we can see, and I'll go need 1 B1, enter, and here I have a seat. Okay, so it says me, it's telling me on segment 1 you have reserved KLM 1765, well, optioned, it's not still closed, this reservation, it's only optioned, in B class for the 4th of January, Amsterdam to Frankfurt. HS1 means I have one seat, leaving at 10, arriving at 11:05, and it's eligible for e-ticketing, and it's a Monday. Operated by KLM, City Hopper, and arrives at Frankfurt Terminal 1, should I be interested and want to tell my my client. And there's a whole lot of information that we're not interested at the moment. And then these are if I want to add a car or a hotel. Hey, all the car commands start with C and all the hotel commands start with H, making it quite simple again. So I'll just do .r, and let's say I want to reserve this for let's say, okay, oh, I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember where the I and Y go. Let's do this. Simpler. Enter, and then I'll just .r display refresh, and here I have it. I have Doe John reserved on this flight. It's still pending confirmation, and then I could use and then there's a whole lot of other information that I can put in the reservation and then close it. I'm not going to close it because another nerdy information I'm giving you before closing this video is that everything we've done on here, it has cost airlines. So to be on this system, airlines pay. Now, for what we have done, they really paid peanuts, like fractions. But just the fact that they are appearing in a research that I've made costs them money. So for instance, you know how people go on like Expedia, or they use GDSs. They just then display the information in a different way on the web page. So all those operations, all those transactions cost money to the airlines. The deeper you go in the transaction, the more it costs. So for instance, I've just been looking at availability and I've just been optioning a seat. This is not a major cost for an airline. The moment I close a reservation, that will cost. So that's why GDSs have training and testing environments. The moment I issue a ticket, that costs a lot. Did you know? This information I have, I don't know if it's true. I wouldn't surprise if someone proves me incorrect and corrects me. What the last I knew is that a segment, when we're talking segments, is this Amsterdam Frankfurt. Let me give you an idea of if I book let's say okay, just to give you an example, here I have a reservation from London Heathrow to Chicago, San Francisco, Honolulu. So this would be a reservation London Heathrow to Honolulu, but it's 3 segments. There's 1, 2, and 3. Every flight is a segment. For each segment, GDS gets something like $6. So if I close this reservation and ticket, only if it's ticketed, and ticket this reservation, Galileo will get 6 times 3, that's $18 from the airline. Can you imagine that multiplied for all reservations, all ticketed reservation sales? It's like insane. And so yeah, so we try, you know, the good travel agent will look things up, and usually will close reservations if he's sort of fairly certain of a sale, or you know, or the client specifically asks, can you please hold a seat for me on that flight, I will let you know tomorrow, and that happens. Or and basically the good travel agent sort of gets rid of the stuff that's not necessary, and I can get into more details about that if you want. But there's also like whole codes of conduct of how to use a GDS, some suggested and some imposed by airlines. How they can impose that is a whole different story. But anyway, I hope this first part was sufficiently interesting and nerdy for you. And if you have questions or want to know stuff or are just interested in knowing more stuff, just comment and I'll be happy to go into more details about these things, about the airline and reservation and ticketing world. Have fun.